Welcome to Players Ball Podcast for AT Aliens by AT Aliens. I'm your host, Alex the Great. I'm joined by my brother, co-host MB. MB, man, a lot going on in Atlanta sports, but we're not going to talk about everybody today. We're going to start with Little Braves, and then we're going to go Falcons. But before we dive into that, let's tell the people where they can find us. I want them to like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube, and then on IG, follow us at Players Ball Pod. That's Players Ball Pod, Pod. Go ahead and give us a follow on both of those platforms. We're gonna have a TikTok soon. That's probably where we're gonna post most of our social stuff. I'm trying to appoint myself the social media manager of of our fun little gang. So gotta learn how to do a social thing again, man.
You're hired.
That's it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. No recommendation necessary. How's your week been, man?
Oh man, it's been a long week. It feels like it should be Friday tomorrow, and it is only Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's been good. Doing the flag football thing, as you know. Had our second game last night. We got another game tomorrow. So just kids are back in school. Things are busy, and back on the grind.
When did you start the midweek activities for the kids? Right, like I'm sure their bedtime was pushed back decently on those nights.
Yeah. Man, it's hard.
Age wise, you
Yeah,
remember?
I'm trying to think. Bennett started, I want to say T-ball at 6U, 6 under. And about the same time that Bennett started sports, Tilly started dance. So I think it's been about 3 years. So she was a little older. But I think it's been 3, maybe 4 years max. And
Has dance always been during the week, except
Mm.
for like performances?
Yes, all of her performances have been weekends. However, their rehearsals for those performances are weekdays, and they're long. That was a shocker when those started, to be honest.
Yes. So my kids they've both done soccer. Charlotte's actually the only one playing soccer this year, but this has been Saturday exclusively. When they did swim lessons, that was also on Saturday. Grayson has piano during the week, but that starts at 5, so we're usually back at the house, well before 6 o'clock. That just seems like such a not involved, but you know, takes some mental fortitude to do. I told you both of Deion's sons, they play baseball, so they have practice a couple nights a week. Sometimes they have a game that starts at 6:30, 7 o'clock. I'm like, man, my kids would destroy me the next morning if I had them doing crazy stuff like that. But I think it is an age thing. That's why I was asking about the age.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely took some. It was a transition, right? They had to get used to it. Tilly, she's never really, other than when they have their recitals or performances and whatnot. They have a couple late nights, but it's usually like a few days before the recital, so it's a very short period. All of her stuff beyond that, she's done relatively early. Now, Bennett is all over the place because with rec sports, you're at the mercy of what fields are available, when your coach schedules things. You don't control your game times. And this year, I think he has a couple games that start at 7, which is late for us. It puts us getting home, 8:30, 9 o'clock. We want them getting ready for bed at 8:30, washing up and in bed by 9. So it's definitely not ideal, but in the long run, I think it's good for them. And a little adversity never hurt anyone.
Yeah. I just don't want it personally, right? We went to on Monday. Old Navy was having a sale on pants. But I didn't know what size I needed, and we didn't really know what size Grayson needed either. So we had to pull up to an Old Navy, and we went to Buffalo Wild Wings afterward to eat. And we got home at like 9:30, and Grayson he has no problem getting to sleep. The boy will go straight out. Boom, he's gone. Head hit the pillow, he's out. Charlotte struggles. She's like me, right? It'll take her a little bit to wind down. So in the morning, like Tuesday morning, she was just, not pleasant to deal with in the nicest of words. But I digress. We do have them out late on weekends. So on Friday, um, I got a text message and it's like, "Hey, we got $9 Braves tickets." I'm signed up to the Braves thing.
Yeah.
All right, so uh, or no, Saturday. It was Saturday. Um, $9 Braves tickets. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go to the Braves game, Brittany. What do you think? Like, yeah, sure. So we got some tickets. Went to the Braves game, expecting to see. Most of it was for them. We did the zip line. We never really stopped in that kid zone before, but they did basically everything, and they had a blast. The Braves got blasted.
Mm.
6-1. It was not a good showing. Um, Another bad showing tonight. And I'm gonna just say it. I think we missed the playoffs with our remaining schedule.
It definitely does.
Unless the Mets just pull a super Met, we're not gonna make the playoffs.
It doesn't get any easier from here. I think our next set is a 3 or 4 game set against the Dodgers at home. Yeah, and then we play the Mets in the following series, or we play Washington again and then the Mets. I'm not quite sure. I just know that the two big series we have coming up are the Dodgers and the Mets. And if we can't at least split against the Dodgers, we may find ourselves in a situation where if we don't sweep the Mets, we don't get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking pretty grim.
And then we close with the Royals, who are currently leading their division. They're no slouch either.
Yeah.
So we have 10 games against winning teams, and we just haven't been beating winning teams of late. I mean, I guess we had some success in August, but I'm not optimistic. I don't think we make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's crazy. We in August we went out to Minnesota and swept the Twins, who are a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we turned around and lost 3 out of 4 against the Phillies. Now, granted, we should have probably at minimum split that series. We were up multiple games by multiple runs and blew it late. But yeah, it's just been a Jekyll and Hyde kind of season for them. You know, a lot of ups and downs. I heard a stat yesterday that's just staggering. They went, it was like over a year without having a shutout. It was like, something ridiculous, like 180 plus games without getting shut out. And then they've been shut out 10 times since. Tonight they did not get shut out, but I mean, one run is not getting it done for this team. Now, we've had spectacular pitching for all intents and purposes throughout the year. I mean, we've had some games where our bullpen has let us down, but you know, Ronaldo Lopez and Chris Sale and Max Fried have been pretty darn good when you look at the season in its entirety. We just haven't been able to produce runs consistently. We scored them ad nauseum last night. What was it, 12 runs? And then
12-0.
And then we turn around tonight and score 1. So I don't get it. I'm at a loss with this team, unfortunately. And our injury woes just, I mean, it's almost comical when you look at it, how many pieces we've lost. Ronaldo Lopez went down. He was pulled in the first inning. because they noticed his velocity was down. They said it was shoulder tightness. He hit the 15-day IL today. So we will not be seeing him for probably the rest of the month.
Spring.
Well, I guess it depends on if we make it to October.
I'm saying we don't, but I will give you a bit of hope. I did just look at something real quick I wanted to tell you. So we have the series against the Mets, which is that's gonna determine likely whether we make the playoffs because they have 7 games against the Phillies, who, are no slouch themselves, and then they finish with 3 games against the Brewers, who, although we did have some success with them, they're still playing pretty good ball as well. So um, they have a tough 10-game slide as well. If we both end up splitting our non-Met Braves games and we win that series, we likely get in.
Yeah, I mean,
But I don't know. I've kind of lost optimism on the team, and I'm just ready for it to be over.
I'm
Sadly,
I'm still hopeful. I still think that this team has all all they have everything they want in front of them, right? And they have the ability to get it. It's a matter of going out and taking it. And we'll just have to
do
wait.
they?
I think they do. You will see Ozzy coming back. Ronaldo will be back for a playoff push if we're there. And you're still going to be missing a few key pieces, but at the end of the day, like they can still win. They're still a above 500 team, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. They're still one of the better teams in baseball,
and they
but
have one of the
uh,
best starting rotations in baseball. And honestly, when you get to the playoff, pitching is what wins World Series.
so we have 16 games left. If he's on the 15-day DL, he doesn't play again likely until or if we make the playoffs. And none of the Schellenbach, he pitched the game that I went to. It wasn't all him; he contributed, but the relievers got touched up a bit. I don't know, man. It just the bug bit us, and it just kind of is what it is at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, who knows when Ozzy comes back? If he comes back in enough time to really get back acclimated. Now, if he comes back like Money Mike did, maybe we make a push, right? But because Matt Olson's been playing better, um,
Honestly,
Michael Harris has been playing pretty good. He's been playing really
the thing
good.
that's kind of bit us is not the fact that Marcel has slumped, but he's certainly cooled off, and he
Oh
contributes to such a high percentage of our offensive production this year that you're seeing the result of him kind of tailing off. And
Does it surprise you a little bit?
no, I mean it's a long season. To hold that pace all
Yeah.
year is a tough thing to ask, and I'm sure he can, get back into a groove and go crazy for the next, you know, 15, 16 games. We'll see if that happens or not, but uh, it certainly wouldn't surprise me one way or another. He could go completely cold or he could, catch fire. He's been kind of lukewarm for the last few weeks.
Mhm.
We've gotten contributions from a ton of different guys, Gio, Ursula, Whit Merrifield, uh, Jorge
Eric
Soler,
Kelnick,
Jared
he's done
Kelnick.
some scoring.
Uh,
Yeah.
they Whit actually is out. He got injured. Um,
I saw that.
so so
That's why my optimism is kind of gone.
so
Right,
tonight they
it's all
started
pathetic.
the son of another baseball legend. Um, it's Kevin Biggio is who started at second base tonight. Um,
Son of Craig.
yep. So I think
How do you say his name? Biggio.
Kevin
I
Biggio,
always call
yeah.
him Biggio.
Craig Biggio.
Craig Biggio.
Yeah. Tomato.
That's the French prononciation.
But yeah,
We
so
got to work on that, man, because we're not going to talk about the Hawks, but rechercher. We gotta get my man some love once that season starts.
yeah.
But you're hopeful though. You think we can still pull it off?
I think if we get in, I'm liking our chances.
Anybody's ball game if we make it. I'm thinking if we make it, yeah, I think we can make some noise. Um, I'm not very optimistic that we make the cut.
I could probably go
Gotta
back
make the tournament to make the noise.
20 or 30 episodes where you were confident that it was a walk in the park that we were going to get there, and I was sitting in this chair saying, I'm not so sure, and I'm still like not so sure, but I still have hope. I haven't given up faith, right?
We flipped. We have definitely flipped from where we were. Okay, well, go Braves. If we make the playoffs, I'll be there, guys. And I did make that game, and $9 was a hell of a deal, man. And we got in there. The food wasn't super expensive, so that was good. It was a good. I mean, outside from losing, it was a good time. We had a good time. The kids definitely enjoyed it. Okay, so Saturday went to the Braves game. Sunday, I go to the Falcons game. To go to the end before I circle back to the beginning, obviously we lost. And after that game, I was like, all right, well, I've cursed Atlanta teams because I'm no longer going in person. Both the two games that I went to in the weekend, they lost. Generally, like I have a high win percentage of games, Braves games specifically, not Falcons because I go to all of them. So I've seen a bunch of L's, but Braves games, I have a high win percentage, so that was discouraging. But I should have seen it coming. So let me tell you how the afternoon starts. We arrive at the stadium. We weren't as early as I wanted to be, but we walked in probably 5 minutes before kickoff. National anthem's happening. I think we had just missed Freddie do his skydive. Shout out to Freddie, coolest mascot in the world. But we walk in, national anthem's going, and we are like, all right, well, let's go ahead and join this beer line because it's short, and then we'll make our way up to our seats. We get in the beer line, order, and I'm putting my beer in the koozie. And I hear somebody, and I'm gonna say exactly what he said. So kids, cover your ears. He said, "You hit like a bitch." I said, "What? What is happening?" Right? So I look over my shoulder. I see these two gentlemen, um, you know, starting to engage in fisticuffs. So it's just shoving at first.
Mm.
How about both of these older men, because they were both 50 plus for sure, wearing Falcons gear. Like, wait, we're starting the day off. We haven't even kicked the ball off. Starting the day off with Falcon on Falcon violence. What is happening? He proceeds to knock this man out. Yeah, right there, right behind the Falcon statue. Blop, drops him. So apparently he did hit like a female dog, if we can refrain from saying it again. We get up to the seats. I'm like, man, that was a wild way to start it. Probably, I don't know. Let's say within the first 10 plays of the game, Najee Harris is running up the edge, and AJ Terrell comes over to try to tackle him or knock him out of bounds. Najee Harris blew up AJ Terrell, and he started talking trash. I was like, oh my gosh, Brendan, he's saying exactly what the man who just knocked out the other Falcons player said. I don't know how this ends. That was within like 30 minutes of being at the stadium. I'm like, oh man, I stay hopeful. I'll pause there and let you assess.
That is a wild way to begin the season for sure.
Yeah, man.
Came into the game. high hopes, a lot of excitement and optimism around this team and what they're potentially capable of doing and what we believe talent-wise they should do. First drive, first possession of the game, we moved the ball pretty well. And then all of a sudden, we start to stall out. And on comes Young Hoku. And we start the game off with 3. And I just kind of in my gut was like, again, this offense that moves.
That was one of your keys last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, turning the 3s to 6s. And we just started it off on the wrong foot. And it didn't get much better from there as we would end the game with only 10 points. Pretty disappointed with the offensive production, but I want to ask you this. If you heard this stat, I want your genuine response. We hold a team to no touchdowns offensively, just field goals. What would you think? Just fill in the blank. How does that end?
We won.
Yes, you would think so. We achieved such a stat, such a feat on Sunday, but we didn't get the W.
So let me tell you about that, right? I know Chris Boswell. He's been in the league for a while, right? So I'm like, oh man. So the first we stop him, and I'm like, oh yeah, good defense. We forcing a punt, and they send Chris out. I'm like, oh, what's he doing out here, man? That's got to be like 50 plus, 57-yard kick. He easily had another 5 yards in it, easily. I was like, oh man, it's gonna be a long day. Kicks 3 field goals over 50 yards. He had a career day. He deserved every bit of that win. If that man didn't get the game ball, someone in Pittsburgh needs to be fired, right? Fire Mike Tomlin if he didn't give him the game ball. 3 over 50 and was just going crazy with the accuracy. Like none of them were in question. And I'm sitting in the 300s, right? I'm like, oh no, that's it. That's it. No question about it. All the leg he needed, not close to any upright. So that even that was like, oh, okay. And then you have Mr. TJ Watt.
I was going to say, him and Chris Boswell might be fighting for the game ball.
Well, and Chris Boswell, an argument for Chris Boswell is that 2 strip sacks do not count because of penalties. One of them he probably should have. There was they played the replay that when they called offsides. He looked like he went right when the ball was hiked. Got in there. He ate Kurt for lunch.
There was another play that he was offsides that they did not call. Isn't that true as well? I think
it was a roughing. Not a strip sack. Both of his strip. He had 2 other sacks.
Yeah.
But the ones where he made Kurt fumble and they possessed the ball, both of those were we retained possession.
What I'm saying is I believe one of the sacks he is credited with, he was actually offsides. So that was just a get back call.
I don't know. That man, he was terrorizing Caleb McGarry all game. They were talking about on the radio how they were sending Kyle Pitts in to chip him. And like, Kyle Pitts doesn't block. That's not why he's there.
Kyle Pitts is not known for his blocking prowess.
He is not, dog. So last week, my not even prediction, but my gut was like, oh man. Remember I was talking about being the media darling and how they usually don't know anything, so they're wrong. That came true for sure. You know, the other part that really grinds my gears was Arthur Smith. It looked like he was calling both offenses. Like the lack of creativity, not adjusting, that was his trademark last year. And the Steelers didn't look good offensively,
No, they're
right? To
terrible.
credit our defense, they played I think they played a great game. We're not playing the Steelers this week. That defense is going to be challenged. I don't think they were challenged as much by the Steelers, but I think a lot of that was because of the play call, right? Arthur Smith, I think Derrick Henry made him, and he don't have a Derrick Henry now, and he just doesn't seem to have it to me. But to have Zach Robinson in there calling plays, I was like, man, is that me and the guy I was sitting next to had Brittany on one side, another guy on the other. It was like, man, is Arthur Smith, is he calling both sides of the ball? What is happening? Where are these plays coming from? Because it just looked like his scheme, right? Another thing with and I'll pass back to you. All right, one bright spot, the touchdown, the single one. Obviously, Kyle Pitts, he has 6 total touchdowns. Was it 1, 2, and 3 over his first 3 years in the league? So he's already off to a good start from that perspective. And I said it. I was like, man, if that was Dez, he would have overthrew him. He couldn't have been more open on that touchdown. I was like, at least he delivered. Kurt did deliver that pass when the opportunity presented itself. But he is being, can I say molested? Not like, isn't that, do people say that in sports terms, right?
Uh,
Harassed?
he was being harassed. That's a
Harassed.
better.
Harassed. Okay. Maybe we got that. Oh, yeah, but he was being harassed. I actually think that's where I was trying to go, but I don't know. Moving on. Did you have any positives that you took from Falcons' performance?
Well, I was gonna say, just looking at that play specifically to Kyle Pitts, he was wide open well before the ball got to
Mhm.
him. But looking at that play and watching it over, it was one of the few times where Kurt was able to move. He moved out of the
Yeah.
pocket to get that ball over um to Kyle, and so I take that as a positive, right? You just need to see more of it. Um,
Mhm.
I too was a little befuddled, as I think the rest of the nation, with the play call. I mean, that's been the number one talking point I've heard over and over and over on the radio. Is the lack of creativity, the fact that we didn't run a single play action pass, the fact that uh, we were running the ball very successfully, and yet we didn't continue. Tyler Algier only had 3 carries, even though those 3
Yep.
carries were very productive carries. So we'll see. A lot of speculation has been made about that, trying to tie it to, well, Kurt must not be 100% healthy, right? Like, why
Mhm.
why would you call this game the way you did if Kurt can go full go? And of course, no one is going to give any credence to that from the Falcons organization. Raheem reiterated in some press conferences that
Fully healthy.
he's fully healthy, that he wasn't able to go full in minicamp, and they had a plan and they worked through the plan, and he's gotten healthier, and he's whatever. He's at 100% now, which is what matters. Um, the other, big talking point, and we can talk more about this in a second. But I think, both you and I predicted that the offense would start slow just because of the lack of preseason reps. Um,
That's been the narrative that I've heard the most.
and I can't help but agree 100%, right? Like, I don't care how many times you run this stuff in practice. There is a difference when you get on the field and you are having to go full speed, and you don't have your brother across the line of scrimmage from you, right? Like, TJ Watt is not
Mhm.
coming with anything but ill intent.
Right.
So I do think that has to be taken into consideration, and we'll see if there's still that hangover carryover into Monday night's game, which, looking at the schedule, I think it's been every media, local media personalities talking point was your first three. Two of those three are very tough games. You're going in Philly on Monday night, and then the reigning Super Bowl champs, two-time Super Bowl champs, are coming into your building the following week. And history and statistics tell you if you start the season 0-2, 0-3, the likelihood of making the playoffs goes down significantly. So, losing Sunday definitely stings. Is the season over? No.
Yeah.
Can we break those? It's probability, right? Can we be an outlier? Can we go against the grain and go 0-3 and still make the playoffs? Sure. Like, there is a path in which you could do that. It just is a uphill battle and much more difficult. So we need them to get right.
Yeah.
I will use a phrase that I'm sure he didn't come up with, but I've heard him repeat it, ad nauseum, and he is quite successful. But Kirby Smart loves to say, you're never as bad as you think you are, but you're also never as good as you think you are. So it's never as bad as it seems, but it's also never as good as it seems. It's usually somewhere in the middle. So I will take that and I will run with it, and I will use it for every bit of optimism and hope moving forward that what we saw on Sunday will not be indicative of the 2024 Atlanta Falcons, and it will just be one of those, games in the books.
I agree with you, and I actually still have a lot of optimism. I am pretty upset. We talked about the preseason thing. That was more than evident to me that they needed to play in the preseason. They should have played a lot. I get not playing a lot, but give them a quarter. They looked super rusty, and I do think I'm still very hopeful for Captain Kirk. There's already people, and I told you that's a conversation we had as well. There are already people calling for him to be benched. Like Mike Johnson said this morning, he's like, "Listen, guys," because both Bo and Tiffany were saying, if if Kirk can't go, and like they're going down the road of if he's hurt, right? If he can't go, then Michael Penix comes in, and that's it. And if he has success, that's it. Kurt's not coming back. He's like, no, Kurt's gonna go. If he's available, he's gonna go. You don't bench a $45 million quarterback, and I tend to agree with them. So I think Kurt's gonna play out this season. But Kurt has shown that he's a dog, man. Kurt got a lot of heart. If there's anything I learned about him in the quarterback, that's what it was. Like, he was taking some licks. So in the past, even with Matty Ice a little bit, right? You start to touch up on Matty Ice a little too much. He was an Iron Man, but he definitely was impacted throughout the rest of the game. Whereas Kurt, well, no, he got worse, but I would attribute that to rust. I don't think that that's something that would continue throughout the season. More live action. He's gonna get better. But to your point, I don't want to start 0-3. There is something that I'm nervous about this season, though. We just paid this man a lot of money, and he didn't. In my opinion, he didn't have a good showing on Sunday. That's AJ Terrell. I know you're a huge fan. You think he's one of the best players on our roster. No, you don't, and I don't want to agree with you because I know how important that position is, especially since we just gave him all this money. George Pickens, he even had a drop, but he looked like he was just cooking AJ Terrell all day. AJ Brown is better than George Pickens. Devontae Smith is better than George Pickens. So AJ got to step up. I want to see drastic improvements out of him as well. Judge Judon got a sack, which is good. Koo didn't miss a field goal. He just didn't have an opportunity to kick a whole lot. But there's only one way for Kurt to go, ideally, and that's up. He had a terrible performance, but
The turnovers
And
were
most of them was
killers.
Russ. He gonna knock it off. Oh yeah, killers. We should have had another 14 points, and that would have won us the game.
Yeah, it's crazy. After everything that we failed to do offensively, we still had an opportunity late in that game to tie and even win. So,
Mm-hmm.
as bad as it looked, it could have been a whole lot worse. We could have gotten completely humiliated in our building, and I don't think that was the case, right? It was a competitive game. We failed to produce, and that, I guess, to me, it's the most disappointing aspect of this whole thing, because you go into this off season, you say you need a quarterback, like that's your primary missing piece. You get one. Well, you not only get one, you get two, right? You get Captain Kirk, the best available free agent, and then you get, in my opinion, one of the best available in the draft. And with that, you bring all the hype and excitement, right? You've invested the last 4 straight number 1 picks in offensive talent. You got Drake London, you got Bijan Robinson, you got Kyle Pitts, and you expect this team to go out and excel on that side of the ball, right? Like, the worry was always, oh, is this defense going to be able to hold up, right? We're going to be in shootouts because we're going to be able to score a lot of points, but can we stop anybody? And that just wasn't what we saw on Sunday. So that's the disappointment, right? Like, offensively, that should be your strength, and it was not. It was awful.
It was completely flipped. I will say that I don't think we're gonna face anyone as good as TJ Watt moving forward. Now that Philly, so let's talk about Philly. Let's preview next week. They didn't look like world beaters on Friday. They did win that game against the Packers, which was a pretty good game. But I ended up turning it off, or I don't know why, but maybe I got distracted. But they didn't look like, the Philly of old. They looked better than they did to close out the season last year. But it wasn't that long ago that I was watching the receiver, and in order for the 49ers to get the number 1 seed, the Eagles had to lose. And they lost to the Cardinals, man. Like, Kyler Murray put it on them. So I'm not relegating us to a loss at this point. I think we definitely have a puncher's chance. I would have loved to have this Steelers game, but I'm not saying we're gonna lose the Eagles game. I think I did say that when we did the record. We had to go back and check the tape. But I think we can beat Philly. We got a lot to correct though, a lot. And that AJ Terrell business does scare me a little bit because we're running to a very special offensive team, right? They are stacked. Saquon went crazy, and I don't know. Maybe he's healthy. Who knows?
It won't be long.
Probably won't be next week.
I'm sure he'll make it through next week. But yeah, I mean, they have a lot of talent, especially at the specialty positions, right? Wide receivers, running back. I'm not as huge a Jalen Hurts fan as I think most people are. I think he's very talented. I think he's got a good arm, but I don't think he's in the tier of player that a lot of people think he is. Like, I don't put him with the Josh Allens and the Patty Mahomes and the Joe Burrows. I think he's a tier 2 or 3 quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's tier
2. So I'm with you. I don't think this game is impossible. There's a lot of parity in the NFL. I mean, how many 1-score games did we lose last year with Desmond Ridder at the helm, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely am not going to write this off as an L, but I do think it's going to be a challenge. It'll be very interesting to see how our team comes out and plays especially offensively. You know, Philly has a good defense. They don't have an individual like TJ Watt, but Sweat is no um, walk in the park. They got Jalen Carter. They got
Yeah,
a bunch of dogs on that D. Um, they got Jordan Davis,
they do.
Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. They got N'Kobe Dean.
N'Kobe Dean.
All those guys are very, very talented, fast, physical. They can get after the quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see how our offensive line does. I mean, Jordan Davis isn't necessarily a sack um, specialist. He's more of a eat up blocks
Run
and
stopper.
help guys get free to stop the run. But Jalen Carter has been known to get after the quarterback. Sweat has been a double digit sack producer multiple times in his career. So it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah. No, it is going to be a challenge. Um, question: Justin Fields. After watching him on Sunday, is there any part of you that's like, man, we should have signed him over Kurt?
Um, I mean, when you look at it from a dollar standpoint, I think it would have been a better financial decision just because, like, you know, he didn't cost a whole lot for, you know, the Steelers. Kurt
Mhm.
basically ate up majority of your salary cap. So it just makes you wonder, like, okay, so if you bring in a Justin Fields, what else could you have done this off season to beef up the roster as a whole? But talent
I
wise,
don't think you draft Michael Penix though, right?
no. And honestly,
And he does it's one game he didn't look like a franchise quarterback to me.
I don't think he is. I don't think he has the mentals that are required to be a starting quarterback in this league for a long period of time.
Honestly, I'd love to see him at another position because he's a freak athlete, man. Like when he was taking off, his rate of acceleration is crazy because he would just be just real nimble, going slow, and then when he turned it on, he was gone. Right? You had somebody that was within a couple of feet, and next thing you know, Justin Fields is 12 yards down the field.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's definitely got some ability. Um, he hasn't been in a great situation from a coaching standpoint. I don't think they really fed into him, right? Maybe he just needs that Tua treatment because Tua's I put him in that tier two as well, but Tua's got some dimes, man. He's been playing some great football since they fired I can't think of my man's name
Brian
that he
Flores.
blasted on. Yeah, Brian Flores, but
But
he's been so much better than he was with that.
Tua's also got some serious weapons, right? Like Tyreek Hill is
Oh
one
yeah,
and one.
right.
And Jalen
Justin Fields never
Waddle
had that either.
is
You
no
don't have it now.
slouch.
Jalen Waddle's really good.
Yeah, I mean, George Pickens is a freak.
Now Raheem Mostert, he is. George Pickens is a beast, but that's pretty much it. I don't think that Freiermuth has really panned out. He still likes he has some ability, but tight ends, I think they pop by now, right? Sam Laporta balled out last year. T.J. Hawkinson, he hasn't been in the league that long, but he's been balling out for a long time. All those Iowa tight ends,
He's got
like even
Darnell
Austin. What's my man's name?
Austin
Austin. He
Hooper,
used to play for us. Yeah, Austin Hooper.
the Stanford
He had
Cardinal.
some grit seasons. Yeah.
I mean, he's got Darnell Washington, who I think in the right system
Oh yeah.
could do really well, but he needs to be in the right system.
Yeah, I know they were trying to add some other pieces and just didn't get them. Like they were one of the big chasers of Brandon Ayuk, who re-signed.
Yeah.
They look pretty good. The Niners.
last
No
night.
Christian McCaffrey. Imagine if they can sit, or on Monday. Imagine they can sit Christian McCaffrey for like 6 games. And he's not, maybe he's not even that hurt. He's just resting up. They go on that run. They're gonna be hard to beat.
Yeah.
Who do you think? Did you watch any other games?
I watched the Kansas City Baltimore game. I watched
That was a good one.
the 49ers and the Jets. I watched our game. I watched some of the Detroit game. Who did they lose to? Or
They beat the
they
Rams
beat the Rams in overtime.
in overtime.
Yeah. So I saw the end of that game where they just basically ran it down their throat. Who was it? Montgomery on that drive
Yeah.
in overtime.
Montgomery. I watched the highlights of that one.
I mean, it was just 10 yards at a time, chunk plays. Just eating. So, I saw a highlight today. I know it was a joke, or I assume it's a joke, but it was like Marvin Harrison Jr.'s highlight tape from this weekend. And it's him going out for a pass wide open, just like raising his hand, and then it was like highlights over. He doesn't even get the ball.
I have him on one of my fantasy teams. I didn't start him, but I definitely think he's going to end up balling out. Kyler Murray is good. I think he's in that same tier 2 with he's been hurt and he hasn't played a lot over the last 2 years. He's in that same ballpark with Jalen to me.
So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Bryce Butler is the supreme authority on all things football, but he did play in the league for 7+ years. He played with a lot of different quarterbacks. Dak Prescott, who got an absolute bag this past weekend. He played with, I think, Fitzmagic in Miami, but he also played with Kyler Murray in Arizona. And if you go, I mean, it's out there on the internet for all to see. Go watch his takes on Kyler Murray and see if you still feel the same way you do about him. That's all I'm going to say.
What were they? I'll go find them, but don't leave them on the edge of their seats.
He does not have the same opinion as you. He does not put him in the tier 2, and mostly his reasons have to do with his personality, his lack of leadership, his lack of studying the game, and his just not being a student of the game, right? And not being a good leader in the locker room. And it's the position, the most important position in all of football, right? And you have to be a leader if you're going to play the quarterback position, and you have to be a student of the game if you want to have success and you want to have longevity, right? Like, you can't not
now in his contract.
Tape. Yeah, they had to put in.
You remember that?
Which is ridiculous.
I think Bryce was probably dealing with it. He had to be dealing. Churlish? It's churlish? Yeah. It's a Kenner's.
It's subordination.
Bryce was dealing with a really young dealing with a really young Kyler. I think he's a different person now, especially after missing that. I saw his interview with I want to say Michelle Tafoya, but that's just the reporter that comes to mind. Her and Aaron Andrews are the only names that I really know off the cuff like that. But I don't know. He seemed mature, right? To have had that in your contract has to humble you a bit.
I have a hard time not seeing the side-by-side comparison of I think it was the character in The Longest Yard and Kyler Murray with like the crop top t-shirts and just feeling some kind of way.
What tier is Dak in? Is he tier 1 or tier 2?
I think he's tier 2 or 3. I don't think he's worth the money that they just paid him. I mean,
that's interesting.
A lot of people will say the same thing about our quarterback, but look at his playoff record. He's had a lot.
Look at our quarterback's playoff record.
Well, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people would say the same thing
Oh, I
about.
thought you were saying Dax. Yeah, no,
But
the
I
playoff
was.
record's
I
not very
say
good.
I will say this about Dak, and a lot of people will say it about ours. But Dak's had a lot of pieces around him, and he's been great in spurts. And then, you know, he led the league with interceptions a couple of years ago. It's just not
Yeah.
indicative of a successful QB.
I would say based on his last year, I put him in tier 2, firmly in tier 2. Like no, definitely not tier 3. And I'll say that by dropping. I think tier 1 is 5 quarterbacks. It's Patty Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Aaron Rodgers.
I was
I'm not putting
just
him
gonna
in.
ask you where you would put Aaron Rodgers. I would say Aaron Rodgers
He's
of
old. He's no longer
prime.
rankable.
Yeah, in his prime for sure, tier 1. But his showing with the Jets was not great. I mean, it's the Jets, but he's supposed to
And they'll
be
get better
Aaron
too. He's
Rodgers.
gonna heat up. Garrett Wilson is cold.
Yeah.
Um, Ron, he stay healthy. He's gonna finish. Statistically, I'm sure he's gonna finish top 10 in the league. But that doesn't put him tier 1. Tier 2, and I don't want to put him tier 2 either, just because he's old. And I mean, he's a starter, so I guess we got to rank him somewhere. But tier 2, I think, is Tua, Justin Herbert, Dak,
Where do you
Jalen Hurts.
put his name's Matt Stafford. I was like, Georgia Bulldog. Matt Stafford.
He's probably 3 for me at this time.
Jared Goff.
3. Captain Kirk, 3, maybe 4. Just depending on how he shows the rest of the season. Trevor Lawrence, I think he's 2 looking at 3 for me. He's on his way down. I'm trying to think of the other quarterback. Baker's a 3 looking at a 2, though. He balled out that first week, but I like Baker. A lot of people don't like him. They say, he has his antics. Baker is a gamer. He loves to win.
Deshaun
He can get a
Watson.
little silly, but I like him a lot. Yeah, he's 3 looking down. And I still have hope for him. For another case from 2020 to come out. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Like, he's got another case of somebody accusing him of doing something in 2020. I'm like, man, like,
I think we dodged a bullet.
Yeah, we definitely did.
And then Geno Smith.
Geno's towards the bottom. Where did you put Brock Purdy?
Brock Purdy. I don't know. Part of me wants to say he's tier 3, but part of me wants to say he's tier 2. Right. I think there's just this. He had such a crazy coming out party, right? To be Mr. Irrelevant, to go into the playoffs, to really, if he hadn't gotten injured, who knows where they would have been. To just kind of having a pedestrian season last year. And I mean, he's got Brandon Ayuk, he's got Debo, he's got George Kittle,
he's got weapons,
CMC. Sure. So it's the same kind of theory that I have in reverse with AJ Terrell, right? Like, I think that his stats are boosted because the guys around him make him look good. And in Terrell's case, I've said the guys are so bad around him, they make his
stats are boosted.
Yeah, because the quarterback tends to target his counterparts because they're so easy to target. But yeah, I do think Brock Purdy gets propped up a little bit.
Yeah, I think the Mr. Irrelevant definitely has relevance, for lack of a better word, on my pudding. I think he'd be 3, but I think I'm sliding him a bit just because of all the publicity he got as it relates to being Mr. Irrelevant and all that. But I do think he has. I mean, you couldn't be in a more ideal situation from a weapon standpoint. He has who many call like one of the best offensive linemen of all times, in Trent Williams, who just got paid.
You
Shout out to that man's
you
bag. So
brought
he's set up for success, but
you brought up
I don't want to give him two yet.
you brought up last week AA, right? You said our buddy Dion is highly critical of Alex Anthopoulos over a specific catcher, William Contreras,
Hmm.
being traded to the Brewers. And I bring that up to say if Brock Purdy had not come in and been able to help lead that team to where it is, John Lynch would be absolutely on the cruise. Like, he would be dead. Like, they would have
With
murdered
Trey Lance.
him in San Fran for what he gave up for Trey Lance. What was it? 3 first-round picks. And Trey Lance played how many games in San Francisco? Not even.
Part of me feels like we don't know who he is, but for him not to get the job back says, well, I don't know.
He didn't get the job back. He's no longer in San Francisco and could not win the job in
Over Dak
Tennessee.
Prescott. No, he's in Dallas.
Is he? I thought he was in Tennessee and couldn't get it over Will Levis. I'm
No, that was Malik Willis, who is now in Green Bay.
Yeah, I think here we can look it up. But either way, he's
Yeah, he's a
flamed.
Cowboy. Trey Lance.
I know he played very bad in the preseason this year. Yeah, he's only
I
been
did
in
hear that.
Dallas. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just funny that that whole debacle from a GM standpoint just kind of gets swept under the rug, and that was the point that I was shooting for.
Well, look at their draft, though, right? And I get what you were going for, and I think may have been a little bit harsh on AA, overly harsh. I get that trade. It doesn't look good at this point because Sean Murphy still hasn't really turned it on, if you will. But John Lynch has drafted crazily. Right, all their talent is homegrown. Fred Warner, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, Debo Samuel. I don't know if he drafted Trent Williams, but they still have Palomalu 2.0, Mafangu.
I don't know.
I don't know if I saw him on Monday, but they have drafted very, very well.
They have, and they've also brought in a lot via trades and off-season acquisitions. Right, CMC was a mid-season trade. He's done wonderful
But the other
things.
one's Jimmy G. We don't want to say, yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, that's John Lynch too. Um, so it's not just the drafting; the signings are good too. But he drafted Trey Lance. I get that. Trey Lance did not pan out.
And if
You know his brother plays for North Dakota State.
Trey Lance, yeah,
Yeah, his brother. He's a wide receiver.
yeah,
They say he's pretty good. I
he
saw
did pretty
he had a
decent.
couple catches versus Colorado.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
he looked tough. I mean, he played hard.
That's good. That's good.
They probably should have
All
won
right.
that game, but you know, Travis Hunter's a freak and made
He
some
is.
spectacular plays.
Yeah, that end zone catch was crazy.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yeah, man. Well, we strayed a bit. Um, I think we can probably wrap it.
Yes,
I don't know
sir.
what our clock's looking like.
We're right at the
A little bit
hour,
over.
so perfect time.
Are we really?
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
that's perfect. All right, man. Well, take us home, my brother.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell. We appreciate you all listening. Drop a comment. I want to know how you feel about last Sunday's game. Do you think Kirk is healthy? Are you one of the ones that are wanting to see Michael Penix out there already? Because those those comments are real. People are starting to set up that noise. So
We can
QB
go with them. Yeah.
controversy. But yeah, let us know what you think, and we appreciate you again. Have a good night. Peace.
All right, catch you on the flip.